Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode number 8 of Live from the Kingdom. My name is Paul Inman, and I'm happy that you are back with us this week. We've got a great show again. If you've been here before, fantastic. But before we jump into tonight's awesome, amazing things, let's bring in my friend, the master of mayhem himself. Get it? Because tomorrow's May. Anyway, here's Billy the Butcher Hanson. What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. You know, I'm now I need to prepare some mayhem to bring.
Well, tomorrow's May. That's where I was going with that. And once again,
got you.
Because I can't remember anything, I got to write it down.
Oh, there you go.
Master mayhem. Yeah. So, how's it been going this week, man?
Good. Busy. Yeah, we're all like I feel like we could say we're pretty deep into the process with this book at this point. So
sure.
We've really got our hands in there and we're really starting to work with the stories, and the book is just coming even further and further into focus, and it's pretty awesome.
100%, man. We've been working this week. Billy and I both have been working, editing, really putting in the work to make these stories the absolutely best they can be. And, it's awesome. These stories are all amazing. And I just realized I forgot to do the intro, the real intro, but it's okay because it is what it is, live. Right, let's jump in the comments, Billy. Let's go for this one. Oh, that's Billy. What's up, Billy?
Oh, hey.
Hey, Karen. The sneaky peeks. Yes, I'm ready for them. We got Bolin with the fire.
Bolin.
Everybody. And we got Mr. Ben Higgins in the house with Adam. What's up, Adam? How's it going, buddy? I'm glad that you are here.
I like that we have a little crew going on every time. Like everyone shows up for the party.
It is. It's like you know, a little mini party every Wednesday. Speaking of editing and stories, let's jump in and talk a little bit about the keys to the kingdom, which is why we are here. We are funding, trying to fund this book on Inkshares. If you notice right here, it might be a little hard to see. Let me zoom that in. 40 days left. 40 days, which means that since last week, we have hit the halfway point. And we are still making some headway. We are just about 28 from hitting 200 pre-orders. 28. Let's see if we can get that this week. That's my challenge to you guys. Let's see.
That was good math. Did you do that math earlier, or did you just figure that out while you were looking at it?
Secrets.
Okay,
I did it earlier. Of course. I have to write things down. You know what I'm saying? I did it earlier. Come on, man. I'm supposed to be spontaneous over here, right? So what I do want to do while we're here, I want to point something out to you. If you go into the read and you go into the story log lines over here on this side, story log lines, right? Look how many stories we have already talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's not even half the book. That is not even half the book.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
This is a big book. I actually keep kind of forgetting how much we have in the book. And then I see things like this, and then we do these lives. I'm like, wow, there's still a lot left. There's a lot left to go.
Yeah. And you know, we're going to add to that in just a minute.
Yes, we are.
We got a special friend here today.
We do, as we do every week. So this is another guy that you and I both met at KingCon. I feel like KingCon is going to be a common topic of conversation with this group. But yeah, I remember sitting around after the screenings or after the party, after the Shining party, and the three of us just kind of like found a spot, and we were all just chatting about our favorite Stephen King projects, what we had going on.
Yeah.
And we all sort of made sure to follow up with each other afterward. And that was well before this book was ever a thing. So like, it was just a really good group of creatives, and he was also on the panel with us. So I am very excited to have him on the project and to talk to him again today, because it's been a minute. But Dr. Robert Cochrane.
And there he is, the drama, the spin.
And just a heads up, you're still muted.
That always happens. Always happens. To the best.
Yeah.
The irony there was, I said that's for production value, but you didn't hear it. So
yeah.
Welcome, man.
It was very cinematic either way.
Thank you.
Right. Take two. You know, that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Great to see you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. Billy was talking about KingCon. What an awesome experience that was, right?
Yeah, KingCon, you know, the whole thing, I remember when I first heard about it was kind of like, I guess it's like a lot of Stephen King things. I'm like, is this really going to happen? I hate getting my hopes up too much because I get so excited about anything related. And, you know, that it was happening in Las Vegas where I lived for 20 years. I don't live there now, but I was like, I can operate there. It's easy for me to get there. I have family I can stay with. I know what's going on. I said, this could really, really fit well. And yeah, I showed up, and I think like a lot of us didn't know exactly what I was getting into. It was so well run. It was so thoughtful. The blue shirts, as they were known, put their hearts and souls into that thing. My God, did that crew work hard. Loved every one of them.
Yeah, and shout out to Jackie too. She was awesome. She was just a powerhouse there.
I mean, to me anyway, their mission of making us all feel special. They really wanted everyone to feel both included and part of something bigger than ourselves, this KingCon universe. And yeah, we left, I think, walking away. You mentioned, Billy, that closing night Shining party type thing, standing around just kind of being in awe of the moment and in awe of what had happened. And it surpassed even, you know, what I was hoping for. So I was very, very grateful and humbled by it and excited by this.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And hey, let's not forget, Adam, your dad was there with us too.
Yeah.
So man, it's been a really incredible experience for me. I work behind the scenes, for those of you that don't know, like trying to put together the basically a film festival that was happening at the same time as the KingCon. You know, that was one of the events that was happening with the King Con. They were showing Dollar Baby films throughout the whole weekend, right? And so it was really cool for me to get to meet a lot of people, sort of virtually first, but then in person to meet a bunch of the people who could make it to Vegas as well. And speaking of, you said you're not in Vegas, but you lived in Vegas for a long time. We don't really touch on this, Billy, but this anthology is not just nationwide, but it's actually international too.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got people from all over the country that have been on the show so far and that are going to be in the book. So it's really kind of an amazing thing that's happening.
I don't know if that's kind of a U.S. centric thing we all get into from time to time, but the King Con was a good reminder of that. I did meet people, certainly several parts of Europe, a gentleman from South Africa, a couple from Australia.
Yeah.
And to go, wait a minute, why was I thinking this is only the States? Of course not. Stephen King is worldwide and maybe beyond.
Yeah. So you made your Dollar Baby in 2004, is that right?
I got the rights to it. Let's see. I had to track that one too. I got the rights to it, I believe, in 2003, and we shot it in 2004. Don't mind that someone's at the front door. We're going to leave that mystery person there.
Bring him on the show, man. Come on.
Okay, Han, bring him in. You don't know what you just invited. Neither do I. But got the rights to it, and that was early in the process, and had read the Frank Darabont shooting script for Shawshank, and that's where learning about the process and said, I want this to happen, but there weren't that many of them at the time, and the internet was not nearly as vibrant as it is now, and so I did the whole Andy Dufresne thing. I started writing letters to Marcia. And signing them, Andy Dufresne, basically saying, "I'm going to keep writing you until you give me the rights to Lucky." and eventually, she found that charming, not terribly annoying, and
so yeah, that's pretty cool. We one of the things that another really cool thing about the book that kind of stands out for me is that we tried our best to sort of get the spectrum of storytellers in this book, so it's not everybody just from one generation, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. Right. So we've got a lot of people from as far back as we could, and we even asked some super early people, but unfortunately they declined kindly. It was fine, but just the fact that we could reach out to them and even ask, so it's just really cool.
Yeah, the Dollar Baby universe, and that was the best look I got at it. Thankfully, Paul, to you for putting that together for all of us to come together. Getting to meet and see so many, Billy, I'd forever wanted to see Survivor Type. Got to see both yours and Chris's version of that. And like you say, Paul, that we crossed so many generations, had all of our different origin stories about where we came from, why we chose the story we chose, what it meant to us along the way. Those are stories that, I think are somewhat captured in other people's works, but boy, on that stage that night in particular, or I guess it was a morning, when we got to sit there and tell our stories again, across generations, times and everything, that was fascinating to me.
Yeah. We all had really similar approaches to it. I mean, very different stories and very, very, I don't want to say varied results. They're all really cool movies, but everyone had their own personal take on it, but it was a really similar experience for everybody, and that's what's so special about the Dollar Baby program itself is you sort of, it produced all of these people who can share this one greater experience together, which is very cool and rare and really rare in the filmmaking world.
Yeah, and the collaborative number one, like you said, I mean, we're all collaborating with one of the great giants, right, of just pop culture history, and that we were there at a moment in time when he was ending the program. That was the kind of unique thing that made us all kind of look at each other over Cabo Wabo or wherever, and say to each other, yeah, wait a minute, we've got something here. We're recognizing this in each other. And who was it both your guys' impetus to do the book, or who sparked this thing?
Paul really sparked it.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of, when we were sitting at the tables, we sat at the tables, got to meet some amazing Stephen King fans and just people in general. They were all super kind, but we would sit around. I am really like super. I go above and beyond with the organizational piece. So I'm like, I've made out a roadmap. Everybody, I'm like, you got to be here this time, from this time to this time, right? So anyway, when we were sitting around, we were selling. Billy and I had some books, and we were selling, and you had some books, and I just kind of was like thinking, what would be really cool? Because Billy and I was in an anthology last fall, and I was like, man, it would be really cool to bring together everybody and make some brand new, really fantastic stories. And Billy brought it to the table that, hey, what if we sort of continued in the spirit of the Dollar Baby program, and we're hoping that we can do that, and these stories can go on to the next generation of filmmaker, right? Let me jump in the chat here. Karen says, I love this backstory on the connections you made. It will make this book mean so much more. 100%. That's fantastic. And you got a fan there, Doc. And let's see. Ben says, let me jump in here. Can you talk about the value of libraries in promoting Stephen King, and what, if anything, they did to help you with the Dollar Babies? Great question, man. I'm gonna leave it up so you guys can read it over again.
I'll say number one that I'm a library nerd all the way. Proudly raised by my mom to just love the public library system. It's one of the great institutions that we have that maintains, thanks to generous donations, and in various places I've lived, you see better or worse variations of them. But as a resource, libraries are incredible and invaluable in our society to have as a social place of learning, and also presentation. I've done film screenings. I've had, different various kinds of meetings. So libraries are heart and soul to that. And, Stephen himself has many times, invested into Maine's public library system is insanely good. And I imagine Stephen Tabitha King Foundation may be part of that, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah.
That reminded me, just what you just said reminded me. I just saw today that they are doing a Stephen King Day in Bangor, maybe. I don't remember which town.
Yeah,
on May
probably
17th.
be Bangor.
May 17th. So Stephen King Day. I guess everybody buy your plane tickets. We're gonna be going up and having a reunion. But when we were in Vegas, Ben and I actually went to a really amazing, beautiful library out in Vegas. It was fantastic.
Which one did you go to?
Awesome.
They do have a good system.
I don't remember the name of it. Ben, do you remember the name of the library? I mean, it was one of the the I guess county libraries, or
was it relatively close to the strip, or do you know how far off?
No, it wasn't too far, but it was far enough that we I have a buddy that lives there, and he took us out. It was Ben says it was Las Vegas Public Library branch. So it was
okay, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I lived next to the one on Flamingo, which not too far from the strip. And again, massive. We used to do theatrical presentations there because I had a theater company, and also, like I said, classes. And so, yeah, they had a very good system there. Karen has been a very helpful out here in our public library system in the Bay. She's a sister from another mister. And so good to see the love for libraries.
Yeah. And Ben in the chat says it was a polling place also because we were out there just before the election. So speaking of libraries, what a great segue. We got a book that we're talking about too, and it's got some stories in it. And one of those stories is by Dr. Robert Cochrane, PhD. And right now, he's going to give you that exclusive title and log line. Let's check it out.
I am very proud to present Terminal Degree, which is the story of a failed athlete turned PhD student facing a sinister choice when a mysterious figure offers him success at a devastating cost.
Excellent. This is a fantastic addition. Fantastic addition to this already stacked book. We just showed you, what did I say before? 8? 8
It was 8.
Books.
That's number 9. Yeah.
Books. Jeez Louise. Now we're at 9 stories in the book is what I'm trying to say. Ben says very Faustian. Faustian? Am I saying that right? I think
that's exactly the right call. And we talk about, is it okay to jump into kind of origins and feelings?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So, Paul, I think you and I talked about the Answer Man.
Yeah, I love that story too.
Right from If It Bleeds, or no, You Like It Darker. Sorry, mix my stories. And it was, I believe, the last story in that anthology or the series of shorts that he had. And it was a classic example, of which there have been many, of somebody in need and having that itch, and the wrong person maybe popping up to say, I see you need some calamine lotion.
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, it's so human, when we get into our spaces, when the world is bigger than us or more painful than we think we can manage, that we're ready to make a deal with the devil. And that's what this story is, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So outside of the Answer Man, was that a direct influence? Like,
yeah,
you read that, were you like, oh yeah, I see this now, I see it?
No, what I'll say is this, and I learned this early about my creative process, and one of the Stephen King quotes I often use in this regard is, it all goes in, right? You take this stuff in, and then as you're starting to, do whatever your process is, or I am, to get something out, I start linking. I start, in the name of my company, my nonprofit, I start yes-anding. I got this, yes, and that would link with this in an interesting way. What if this did that? Ooh, that's interesting. Because, when you guys, pitch this, I said yes before. Of course, I had an idea. I was like, I'll come up with something. and then sweat starts to form.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, I haven't done this style of writing a long time. Screenwriting has been absolutely where my work has been. I do a ton of editing of it, though. I felt very confident in that regard, because it's a lot of what my students write are things from short stories through novellas, even a couple novels. So in that regard, felt comfortable. But it was, okay, what do I want to say? Right? It's what's grabbing my attention for whatever reason. And, one of my favorite places to look for inspiration is what inspired Stephen King. I love reading his introductions. I think those are the greatest gifts he gives us, to say, here's why I did this, or, this was, and sometimes he's a smart ass about it. Sometimes he's very deep. And I love that process. That's why On Writing is just, my adored book. I reach for it all the time. Did you guys know there's a 25th anniversary version coming out?
No,
I did not know that.
I just saw this. In fact, it may only be a UK edition. It's a hardback, and it includes a recent, article. I think it got published somewhere, that Stephen King wrote in 2024 called On Joy. Basically talking, I think, about the joy of writing. And I'm like, oh, I got to get this. And so, I may have to pay tariffs. Let's not do that. But anyway, got to get my hands on this thing somehow. Maybe it'd be cheaper to fly there. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome though. I'm glad to know about that, because that's one of those books that I feel like a lot of people go back to often, and like I know I do.
It's right there on my bookshelf. Actually, I can see it right over there.
Yeah. You keep a couple on the short list, right, of your shelf, and that's one for me. I keep that. Power of Myth, a little kid's book called The Phantom Toll Booth. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. My number one. So what else do I have? The Giving Tree, Shel Silverstein.
Yep.
We have
read that to my kids last night.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. We keep a lot of versions of The Little Prince around here.
Oh God, absolutely.
There's a lot. And back behind me, I've got Billy Hanson's books on the shelf back there.
Oh, there you go. Don't read that one to the kids. Actually, fun story about that. So one of my son's teachers got my books, and she was telling me, like, after pickup, she'd be like, oh, I read this story. And then I went to pick him up one day, and the teacher was like, yeah, I had to stop reading one of them to my son. I was like, I'll try to read one. And then she's like, yeah, I had to stop that one. And he was like, I don't want any more. I think he's 10 years old. So I was like, good on you for reading to him. Grab a different book. Yeah.
I thought she might have said, oh, that actually explains a little something about your son. And you're like, oh God, I have to do this.
That's great.
No, thankfully, no. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, did you have any other maybe direct inspirations on this particular story? Because I know, without giving too much away, I mean, your log line there actually paints a great picture. So I'm not going to add any more detail to that.
Sure.
What else you got?
Well, no, I'll say, Needful Things is one of my all-time favorites, right? And I look at Needful Things as one. I'll put the dark half as the other. So there's two parts of it. Needful Things, Leland Gaunt. Now, number one, I freaking love the name Leland Gaunt.
Yeah.
Right. And the movie wasn't the greatest, but you had Max out there playing him, and Max von Sydow, right? So that was just unbelievable, right? So there's that again, that whole idea of just walking into a little town and going, little mischief here. You talk a little mayhem for May. Well, Leland was the king of that. So that was, certainly an idea for that character, but then also the dark half, which gets into a little bit of the scholarly side of things, which plays into the PhD world, right? Which, for those who don't know, I can tell you, I mean, it really is brutal. It is much more difficult than I thought. My MA program was a breeze. I worked hard, but oh my God, the PhD thing was a totally different deal. And when I started looking into it, about my difficulties, I'm not the only one. Thankfully, I had a friend who had not thankfully had the similar bad experiences, but he had rough difficulties. We started looking just kind of into research about student success and about difficulties. And, there's an unfortunate suicide rate in PhD students because of where people get at what they call a terminal degree, right? It's the highest level you can get. And if for some reason you don't complete it or you don't live up to the expectations, it becomes a stain, a really ugly thing. Not only in the, because up to this point, people have been very successful academically to get here. So you've already got a lot of your personality and pride built into that. But then also to, for whatever reason, not measure up. And this is the real bitch of it. So much of it is subjective at that level. Yeah. And there's so much politics and so much, again, institutionalization. And that, as a story motif, favorite was Shawshank, institutionalized. That was a huge influence, was looking at what does the institution do to protect itself versus somebody who may be seen as either an agitator, not quite living up to, maybe dragging things down. And how does the machine choose to either dispose of, roll over, dismiss the offending party, as it were? And the dehumanization aspect of it was a huge part of this. So when you talk about influence, all of those things go in. And again, the minute someone feels less than, worthless, who's there? Oh, you seem to be down. Let me give you a little something. Would you like an ice cream?
I can say too, like, all of that stuff is so prevalent in the story too. And,
for sure.
Without giving any of it away, like hearing you talk about it now is really, I'm seeing the pieces that are connected. And there's some really great character work in yours.
So listen, I'm going to stick with my BA and my MA, and I'm not going to go for that PhD.
If you don't need to,
I've got my BFA. That's good.
Now, an MFA is a terminal degree. I don't think a BFA is, but an MFA, what the terminal degree does for academia is it allows you to go on a professor track, right? Yeah. So that's the benefit of doing it. And it's a great gig if you decide you want to stay in academia, and of course you have to have a terminal degree to do so. But what I want to make clear is, the character is not me. This is one of those. This is probably heard this from other authors before, but use what we call aesthetic distance, right? There's a kernel of my understanding of my truth in here. And then I go, okay, how do I breathe life into this character, right? And I love the names, and people will see, with the names that come forward, there's several names I'm very proud of in this story. And there are several, you talk about influences. I can say this without giving things away. The Dark Tower controls everything. the Wheel of Ka is always in play. So for those Dark Tower fans, look for your references. They're there. And I love that.
They are there. Fun Easter eggs, So Karen says, read acceptance, guys. Hey! And I missed one earlier. And you did come up with something awesome.
Thanks.
And he
Very
did. I can 100% agree with that. It's great. It's a fantastic story, and I'm excited for everybody to read it along with all the stories. So we're going a little long, so let's jump back in and let's have you give it to them one more time. Let the people know.
So the name of the story, once again, is Terminal Degree. And it is a story of a failed athlete turned PhD student facing a sinister choice when a mysterious figure offers him success at a devastating cost.
And it's a great story, guys. I can't wait for you guys to read it. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Karen may have read it already. One of you.
She hasn't. I've married to the mom, and I know she wants to. She's a super Uber fan, and she mentioned my book Acceptance. Very much, thank you for that. That's part of very quickly my nonprofit, Yes and Exercise. Sure. We serve the Parkinson's community. My dad was diagnosed in 2001, and it has become basically my life. That's what I went back to the PhD for, to study the effect of improv and storytelling on Parkinson's, the psychosocial emotional side of the illness, which, like any chronic illness, is really the untold difficult part that is not treated well. And, God bless all of those who work on the physical symptoms, and thank you for that work, but there's not nearly enough on the emotional, psychosocial side. And for Stephen King fans, I can tell you, one of the programs we have is the Shawshank Hero's Journey. And it's not just for the Parkinson's community. Anybody who's interested and wants to write a story via this cinema therapy program is welcome to join us. All proceeds go to the nonprofit. So please check us out at yesandexercise.org.
And if you want to follow anything that Robert is doing, at least on Instagram, I know it's at Yes and Exercise, as you see on the screen there. If you'd like to follow Billy, @boybilly, @boy.billy, and I am Paul Inman SC. Please come follow us if you'd like. And I got one more. I'm trying to do it. I can't find it. Hang on. Where is it? There it is. If you want to do, if you want to follow Keys to the Kingdom on Facebook, if you have Facebook, please come over, Keys to the Kingdom 2025, and follow us there. Next week, Billy, guess what? Next week, I have a special guest. His name is Billy Hanson.
And I have a special guest whose name is Paul Inman. Hey, I need to think of nicknames for you next time.
No. We can't do that. We can't go that route. So next week it's going to be me and Billy. And guess what? We're going to talk some about the stories that you haven't heard from Billy. And maybe another one from me. Another one. What, Billy? Who's even in charge here?
No idea.
Hey, we appreciate you being here. For Dr. Robert Cochrane and Billy Hanson, my name is Paul Inman. Next Wednesday, why don't you join us again? Let's see if we can get those 28 books and get to 200 this week. All right. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us each and every week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. See ya.